most close on to. So the 47% of the entire network, including the one we were thinking of building, clogs up to where it grinds down to 10 kilometers an hour. I have no problem with it. You can tell me today that this is not really what the country needs now. And we continue on that, and what do they call it? I can buy you an expensive or tot of whiskey, and we continue after this. But I'm still saying to you, I am with you. And I even in 2005, as a young engineer, when we looked at the current Gauteng, it felt wrong at some times, and we felt that it was not the kind of thing that the country needed. And in essence, we are comfortable that this is actually what the impact of this western area needs. And ultimately, this line goes throughout into Soweto and then down to, what do they call it, to the Vereeniging region, to the special economic zone there. And it also goes to the Western Precinct economic zone. So these are things that we can have a conversation about, but I'm just simply giving you the facts of what will happen.
Okay, I would like to believe that apart from the line having to pass through Sharon Lee, you do have other alternatives that are there that won't disrupt this community. And I don't know if I'm wrong in saying that, but I would like to believe you are not just having this as the one option that is there. Why not utilize those routes that won't affect community? I know Gauteng is built for the benefit of the community, but the community is crying that you're actually affecting us by bringing that line. So why not use those other routes? I know they're expensive for government, so that's why this is a better route. But for us, it's expensive in that it's gonna dismantle the whole community. I know Gauteng has got buses. Why not plant the station there, have buses come in route? I think that may be a better option than cutting through a community that is there. Because once you start cutting through communities, it's not going to stop here. Everywhere you want the line to be on is going to cut communities over and over again. So why can't the government look at options where don't disturb the communities, but make them better in a way that the lines themselves don't get to cut in, but get to be outside where community still says, community will still remain intact. And people won't cry about their houses devaluating and them losing their homes and all of that. Why not use those routes? Because I would like to believe eventually, 2037, we may be flying. That's a possibility. Yes, we can do that. So for now, to save the communities that are there, let's use those other alternatives that you've got. I believe you have them. But this one, you're negotiating on it because it's a cheaper way. And with the laws of vectors, it's an easy way. But why not use those other ones where the community remains as it is? And then everyone is happy. Then we are happy we've got a Gauteng. Because right now, with the message that has gone, we don't want it. I don't want it. Because if it's going to affect how I live, if it's going to affect the kids that I have, why should I vouch for it now?
Your comment is noted, sir. I mean, it's only adding a voice to what they call it, to what we've already agreed to speak about and look forward to how we go forward. Thank you, sir.
Cool. Yeah, so not to basically come across as having resigned to the fact that this is happening, but to go back to the question that gentleman had, market value is what you say you're going to be paying for houses that are affected by this. Market value at what point? So, I mean, if we had a boom 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that would be the right time to determine what the market value of a property is in order to compensate people. Added to that, if you do purchase a property and the current owner decides to stay on the property up until the point at which you require the property to do your development, are they allowed to take what they have invested into the property out. For example, solar panels, solar systems, cameras. And to be honest, Sharon Lee's and Jay-Z knows, we've got massive water issues anyway. What kind of water disruptions are we going to end up having once construction does start for those who are still in the area?
Okay. So the issue, the first one that you were asking was market value when it's at the point at which, what do they call it? The house has been determined to be part of that. But you in a case where the house is not going to be inhabited and we're not selling it off and all of that, and it's going to be completely destroyed, then in that case, then the people were always allowed to take out their additional improvements, such as solar panels and all sorts of other things. In the case where the house would actually be now fully owned and resold as a house and all of that, then in that case, the house is bought whole, and you are paid for those additional improvements that you brought onto the house. So you've already been paid. So you cannot get paid and then still want to take it away. That's double dipping, somebody told me. So we have to balance it out all in all. So I think we would have to deal with it that way. I have spoken longer, and I speak quite a lot at conferences. I've spoken longer than I've ever done in years. Yes. Yes.
Yet Prasas being neglected and is being run to the ground. The same government. So why don't we all focus on the Gauteng, the existing infrastructures that the middle class and low class people can use is being destroyed?
Noted, sir. We have actually offered that, what do they call it, that we would like to help, what do they call it, in restoring Prasa in full. Certain decisions were made during lockdown. I made different decisions, and somebody else made completely different decisions. And the deterioration didn't just occur. There is a, the ability to run a knowledgeable agency like ours, with people that are there and they know what they're talking about. It is tending to be a bit of a difficult one, and I won't say they were not necessarily knowledgeable on that end, but we made certain decisions that actually made sure that what happened in Prasa does not happen to us. And in actual fact, that month that we spent on total lockdown, I spent most of that time working. In between me having a bout of COVID, I mean, you saw the headlines, Gauteng executive gets COVID. That was me. So in between me recovering from COVID and everything else in that month, I planned for, what do they call it, for the reopening of the system, but I also planned for the securing of the system in itself. And those are things that you decide upon based on experience and know-how and most of other things. It's not a decision that was made somewhere. It's just a bad decision that was made by an individual somewhere else. And for their own sake, I hope they call it, that they do realize that it was a bad decision that they took at that point. Yes.
Okay, I just want to ask a question on behalf of somebody in the audience and then get to my own question as well. Firstly, Malibongwe falls outside of the corridor, Malibongwe falls outside of the corridor. Will the corridor be shifted if Malibongwe were to be a suitable route? And secondly, will the residents not directly affected by expropriation be reimbursed for the infrastructure put into the suburbs in terms of the cameras? That's, as someone indicated earlier, 90 plus cameras to the tune of millions of rands to secure Sharon Lee.
So the second question is much more, what do they call it? So in whatever we do, so I think some of those things that, what do they call it, Victor was showing in the rules, and we were all rushing him, but they speak to the process of what must happen. Now, in essence, in us eventually keeping Sharon Lee, let's keep it, maybe if I say whole, it sounds wrong, but keeping it in such a way that the level of security that was there before the railway line was put up, we would have to make sure that we ensure that on our, inclusive on us looking at if we were going at grade, and I'm not saying we're going at grade, and there was a fence that was cutting through here, we would have to make sure that even on our fence, we secure the area the same way as you have. And we have proved that, what do they call it, in terms of security overall, the rate of recovery of lost and found items is 99% on the Gauteng. In the entire 10 years of us running the system, there's only been 2 incidents that we didn't resolve and we didn't get the item back. And those two incidents, the security police refused to go into the person's house. But everything else we recovered, and so we will not create a security threat. Everywhere we've gone, we've improved the security threat. Your second question was?
If we want to go on Malibongo.
Yes.
Corridor.
Yes. And that's the one thing and that's why we started there. It wasn't an issue of killing you with PowerPoint. It's for us to be able to show that as process unfolds, we're able to move things around. And we will consider all the options that have been brought through, all the considerations that have been raised on not cutting the suburb in half. Everything that is there will have to now be put into a pot and say, what becomes an engineering solution for this? And this is the process that you now need to go into. And I understand, and the 2 ladies raised it over and over again that, property values are a big issue, and that's what we're dealing with immediately now. But the process as it unfolds, then we get to a point where even the water table that we were talking about earlier on in Olivedale can become easily a problem. Because if the water table is so high that in actual fact we cannot even tunnel in that area, then the tunnel needs to be moved. The engineering solution in itself cannot be for the sake of the engineering solution. I mean, when I worked in England in certain places, there's a thing called London clay. London clay is horrible to tunnels, and we tried by all means to go away from it. Sand by itself, also sand mixed with water, is very difficult to build in. So by itself, the engineering that is existing and the know-how that is existing at the current moment will dictate that certain things be moved in any particular way. We have noted the comments of the Sharon Lee community, and we will make sure as we continue with our design, then we take those into consideration, including whether or not Malibongwe or the other servitude that everybody was talking about in the north, which I did agree that we will go back and look at it and give feedback on, why not that one and why through here. Okay. That's fine.
Okay, just on that, there's a lot of talk about expropriation, and like the gentleman in the back there said, he's not willing to resign to that fact yet, and I personally am not. I do support a tunneled approach, personally, and I'm speaking on my personal behalf now. And in terms of that engagement, the follow-up processes where we, like you said now, there's going to be a change or could be a change in the design, consultation with the engineers. Can I ask you for your commitment to consult with us when those times come? We can be notified and be involved in those processes so that we don't miss out on any of those steps.
It's not about me giving you the commitment. And what Victor was trying to highlight there is that you are fully protected by the law to force us to do it. I can give you my commitment, but I plan on retiring in 3 years' time. So you might find it a bit difficult. But overall, I'll still be in rail and doing projects and everything else. But I want to go and do other things. I've been beaten up enough in these meetings, so it's now time for me to sit somewhere else. But I appreciate the communication we've had today. I appreciate and I will give my commitment. The organization I have tried to build in the last 8 years it's proud about its heritage, and it's also proud about how we've come so far. One of the things you've noticed along here, I'm the oldest person here. No, in terms of, what do they call it? In terms of my team. I didn't want to raise an issue about you. This was about me, not about you. It is us being able to build the next generation of leaders. But those leaders have to learn from people that have done it before. And we have been through this before. Our previous CEO, who's still in and around us as part of the Transport Authority, he will hold us to account because he has done it before and has done it the right way. Our current CEO used to be our previous COO, and he was part of the Treasury people that made the decisions to build the system the right way the first time. We have enough people in our organization that have enough knowledge, and we have a brand that the government owns that is worth a lot of money. It has just been valued in the last few years at close to 450 million rands, just the name, the Gauteng alone. Now that in itself is worth something protecting. It's worth protecting. And I am not going to damage it, or it would not be damaged under my watch. And that I guarantee you, JC, that not under my watch. And that is why I am willing to take time to come and do this, despite the fact that I've been up since 5 o'clock trying to deal with my own personal issues.
Okay, one final question here.
What propels the Gautrain?
Electricity.
Really? Good luck with that.
So in the next round, we are also looking at hydrogen trains and most of other things. So things that can be manufactured locally with local materials and most of other things. So we have a big greening strategy that then would mean that we would have to look at different technologies. That's that.
On the actual train, who is building the train?
Yeah.
Actually stimulating my economy. We build nothing there.
No, that is fine. So this is the Electrostar. It is a model of train that we actually picked out of England. It was, at that point in time, we wanted something that was reliable, and it was, what do they call it, and it would not fail us. So it was designed in Derby. The panel cutting was done there, but the assembling was done here. In order they call it. So in the next while, what we've agreed to do is we've actually agreed to use the Alstom factory in Danota, which is out there in Niger. And they will build a second part of the plant to be able to accommodate the standard gauge vehicles. In actual fact, right now, remember there was a time when we were looking at procuring trains. We were completely stopped because we were looking at buying a small amount of trains, and small amount of trains become very expensive to produce because the industrialization is a bit complex. So we have agreed to be able to use the Denota plant once they are finished with making 100 trains over 3 years, and they are building trains fast enough. The old Union carriage where these were, what do they call it, were assembled, is still available to us. It's now owned by Alstom Ubunye, and that can also be used for that. And in addition to that, one of the biggest challenges that we had with the, what do they call it, with the Electrostar is that it's made probably about 65% out of aluminium. And the gentleman here will tell you, finding aluminium welders globally is a nightmare. Finding them in South Africa is even a worse of nightmare. One of our trains got damaged and we had to repair it, and it became a nightmare of note on how to create SIMs on some of the parts that were damaged. So it is in addition to, it's not only getting the manufacturing right, it's us getting the skills in place now so that we can then be able to utilize them at that point in time. So that's that. The amount of schools that we are building at the current moment, it's incredible. I work for government, so some of my comments might be career limiting. So I have to remember that after 8 years of being here. But I think there is there is a need for building a lot more technical skills schools than anything else. One of the things that we've done in and it's a collective problem. It's not a black-white government thing. It's not that. It's us as as a nation. We've gotten into this mode where we prioritized degreed skills and all sorts of other things, and we've done away with a lot of the technical know-how vocational schools. And I think that is the conversation we're having now about everything else. If there is no further questions, all that's left for me to do is to thank you for making the time and also indulging me. It wasn't by intent that I was late. It was just purely from the fact that there was load shedding and I was trying to get here. And and if you don't know the impact of of traffic, see it during load shedding, because the minute after 6 the lights came on from that north end of Santen and everything else, then everything started flowing, because the original GPS estimation was I was going to get here after the meeting is finished. Thank you, guys.